Ghana, and good morning to your cherished listeners.
I hope you're well.
God is faithful. I'm doing well.
It's been quite a while. But first, let me start with whether you listened to that short intervention of the Speaker in Parliament on the matter of the Office of Special Prosecutor.
I did. I listened to the Speaker, and it's a view that many of us basically kind of held. And if you listen to my commentaries at the time when the office was proposed, right? I've always maintained, look, in the law of, in criminal law, there's a popular case, the Republic versus Apia, right? This Republic versus Apia, guess who Apia was? Apia was a special prosecutor.
Republic versus Apia.
The Republic versus Apia. The Apia there was a public, a special prosecutor. You see, the special prosecutor experiment is not new to Ghana.
Ghana's gold.
You know Bryce Akweti.
Very well.
You know he was a deputy special prosecutor before.
Really?
Yes.
When?
Yes, in the 1980s.
Oh.
You know Colonel Asante Jima?
Yes.
He was a deputy special prosecutor. Yes. Anybody, a law person, the Republic versus Apia. Apia was a special prosecutor. Then he was investigating a case involving Kowus Motors. Subsequently, they found out that he took money from Kowus Motors, Mr. Java, right, through his Ghana Commercial Bank account in London. So when the issue came up and he was being tried, then he said, well, if you say so, but the money was not taken in Ghana. It was money in an account in London. So the Ghanaian court did not have a criminal jurisdiction over matters that have happened outside our jurisdiction. So one of the famous authority on whether or not the Ghanaian courts have jurisdiction over crime committed outside is in that Apia and the Republic. And it has to do with a special prosecutor. do you understand?
Yes. But was the legal regime the same as what we have in place now?
The same Criminal Offences Act. Remember that our Criminal Offences Act is the 1960 legislation. You understand? The reason why I'm raising this thing is that, you see, the experiment on the special prosecutor is not a novelty.
Okay.
The only issue is that Akufo-Addo hyped it purely for politics. Look, Akufo-Addo has never had the intention of fighting corruption. Akufo-Addo's idea of fighting corruption is to use agencies of the state against his political opponents.
Ghana's gold. Radio gold.
Hence, the decision to make Martin Amidu the first special prosecutor. Look, Akufo-Addo's whole idea was to harvest, at that time, the seeming bitterness Mr. Martin Amidu had with his colleague NDC members. And so the whole idea is that let me get one of their own to go after them. So that if I get one of their own to go after them, I cannot hide and say, oh, you see, it is not me, it is a specialized office. So the question of which hand thing will not work. You understand my point?
Yes.
But you notice that the Office of Special Prosecutor didn't come so early. So he Nana was then now forced to use the CID to do his investigation, culminating in the NCA matter, culminating in the Senate OBS, use Yoko culminating in the Maslow matters, right? And so his strategy has always been sinister. Use your own against yourself. Then it makes him look good. Then, you see, there's a popular saying, he said, once you set out for revenge, make sure you dig 2 graves. Have you heard that statement before?
Yes.
Good. So in this specific case, his whole plan was to use Martin Amidu, the office newly created, against former NDC appointees. Then he, Akufo-Addo's own appointees, then decided to go into what has now become known as the Ejapa royalty scheme, whereupon they would effectively mortgage Ghana's gold royalty to themselves, invite their own friends. So monies that they have, that they start abroad, they will now turn around, use that money to buy shares within these so-called vehicles. Then eventually now become the owners and controllers of your gold royalty forever. So the whole strategy has always been very devious. Control, 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 whether in power or in opposition. Then Mr. Martin Amidu wrote his famous Ejapa royalty corruption risk assessment. Proud to that you recall, the Attorney General, Madam Gloria Kufu, had already written a very scathing report on the Ejapa deal. You remember? And so thereafter, the events that came out of it, Anado trying to basically get Martin Amidu to, water down the effect of the corruption risk assessment and all the matters that came out of it. Subsequently, in November, if you recall, Mr. Martin Amidu had to resign as a special prosecutor.
Yeah.
Then, Mr. Kike-Jaben came. Now, with the coming of Mr. Kike-Jaben, and I have not hidden my relationship with him, he was my law lecturer, criminal law. In fact, he taught me criminal law. He made me kind of fall in love with criminal law. Because one thing he always kept saying in class was that criminal law was the easiest. Because as a private defense attorney, you don't get to, as it were, do much work. You only wake up in the morning, go to court. The prosecution will bring their witness. Once the witness is done, you only cross-examine, then you are gone.
Yes.
You don't file pleading in criminal matters. You only have your charges, then they'll bring their witnesses, and then you start the process. And so you always kept telling us. Then when I finished law school, the law firm that I started with, did my pupillage, he was there. Until he left us around 2014 to go and set up his own law firm. 2014, 2015, go and set up his own law firm. So that has been the kind of pretty well. Now, it's interesting to note that possibly Mr. Akufo-Addo had a different idea of Mr. Kike-Jaben. That possibly he's coming to be all over the place, possibly chasing NDC former appointees, or possibly doing something. Fortunately or unfortunately, the very people whose conduct has to be referred to Mr. Kike-Jaben. And to be honest, Mr. Jaben appears a bit more, let me say, he's been quite engaging in this corruption conversation. I mean, today you hear he's investigating this, tomorrow he's investigating this, another time.
Yeah.
And the more he was investigating, in fact, as we speak, there's an appointee of President Akufo-Addo, the Northern Development Authority.
Yes.
The bosses, that he's prosecuting them in Tamale. And many other places, right? So when these issues came, I think it started giving the government a certain bad image. And let me tell you something. Possibly if you look at our 1992 dispensation, You are a bit more familiar. From 1992 to 2000, when former President Rawlings left, can you tell the number of then appointees that were taken to court for any allegation of corruption? Do you remember?
The appointees of the former President Rawlings.
Yes, that were
taken to court
and prosecuted for acts of corruption.
Quite a couple. I could remember Mr. Chachu Chikata.
No, I mean President Rawlings.
No, his appointees that he took to.
Yeah.
No, during his administration, did he take any of his appointees to?
Yes, that you know.
No, don't recall any.
What about President Kufuor?
No, not at all.
In fact, the only appointee of President Kufuor that he took to court was Malam.
Yes, Malamisa. That was, yeah.
He was a PNC man.
Yes.
The only president who put his own appointee through the court process was President John Mahama Abugapeli. Because you see, if you study from 1992, even from our independence time, right? I think Nkrumah tried that. And that was one of the things that he was overthrown for. You don't go after your own. You don't. And so the NPP have studied this thing and have taken the position that taking their own through corrupt investigative process hardly. And so if you notice, all the appointees of President Akufo-Addo that have been taken to any of the criminal investigative bodies, one way or the other, they get cleared. So, for instance, the Australian visa racketeering scandal, were they not journalists in Australia who pretended as sports journalists? In fact, they were not journalists.
Yeah.
They were civilians. That people just got them visas and then blah, 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 blah. Now they ask you which station you operate from, which journalist, blah, blah, and then it became a whole scandal. To the extent that the next year, the Tokyo Olympia, Ghanaian journalists could not go. Right? So, it gives you an indication that no president wants to touch his own.
Okay.
It has to take extraordinary courage from John Mahama to do the Jida trial. Extraordinary courage. That is why I always say that H.E. John Dramani Mahama presents a very unique leadership thing. Because, look, it wasn't easy, a decision to take. Because the president then could have asked the attorney general, find a nice way, find a nice way to clear them. You understand?
Yeah.
From the time Akufo-Addo became president from 2017 today, the people that he's taking to court, his attorney general has taken to court, are all former government appointees, correct?
Yes.
Exactly. Is Akufo-Addo saying that he's never heard of any of his ministers engaged in procurement breaches or something? He said it, he won't do it. It takes extraordinary courage to do that. So now you have a situation where a special prosecutor comes in the person of Kisiye Jabeyi. Then what happens? One day his officers make a search in the house of an appointee, a very close confidant of Mr. Akufo-Addo, Madam Cecilia Dapa. And that investigation done by the office of the special prosecutor provided a smoking gun as far as the extent of corruption under the Akufo-Addo administration was concerned. So the Cecilia Dapa search is what provided the smoking gun. Because you see, the conversation at that time was that, if we are being told that the house help and others have stolen this money, then there shouldn't be any money at home. You understand? Then now one day we wake up and they say, the office of special prosecutor had gone to do a search. And even after the search, the amount of money uncovered, it took them 3 hours to count it. And people say, if Madam Cecilia Dapa, Bola minister, had this so much in his house, then what is the finance minister having at home? So it provides, in investigations, right? You always look for a smoking gun. You are doing a murder investigation. You go and you see a weapon with blood stain on it. That provides you a lead to begin to ask questions, to begin to open. And so that extraordinary action of the special prosecutor to do the search in the house of Cecilia Dapa opened up the Akufo-Addo administration to the broader conversation of corruption. And it provided a smoking gun. And that is why you notice that from the time that Cecilia Dapa thing came, the office of the special prosecutor and the special prosecutor have come under attack from even appointees of President Akufo-Addo. I don't want to mention it. There's a particular journalist in this country who is also an appointee of President Akufo-Addo, who basically every 2 days goes on the offensive against the OSP. Okay. Why do you think so?
I guess you're talking about Mr. Paul Adumotri.
Why do you think so? He's an appointee of President Akufo-Addo, correct?
Yes, he is. He's the board chair of the Ghana Airports Company Limited.
Who appointed Kike Jabe?
The same President Akufo-Addo.
Does the president, doesn't he say that one of his instruments to fight corruption is the OSP?
Yes.
Has the president not heard that his own appointee, board chairman, and remember, anybody who manages your airport is a security official. You know that?
Yes.
Because your airport is your number one security zone. Because that is the entry and exit point to this country. The board chairman of the agency tasked with managing that particular facility is always on air attacking someone that Akufo-Addo has appointed to fight corruption. It describes him in very unsavory language. Why do you think so? So I want to believe it is within that context that the respected Right Honorable Speaker is saying that, look, this thing was never going to work because the person who set it up was looking at a more politically convenient structure, but didn't know that it would turn this way. You know, the famous statement, I think in Genesis, where Joseph said, "You meant it for evil." He said what? You, my brothers, by selling me to the Ishmaelites or whatever, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good.
Are you suggesting that it was intentional to create this structure where, even though the special prosecutor is supposed to be independent, he traces his powers back to the Attorney General, making his work difficult?
Not only tracing, I mean, first of all, Article 88 is in clear terms. Prosecutorial powers vest in only one person, not even the president.
Yeah.
Article 88 is one of the unique creations of the 1992 Constitution. Very unique.
Yeah.
It creates an independent office, not subject to anybody's control or whims. So the Office of Special Prosecutor, by reason of Section 4 of the Special Prosecutors Act, is the AG that has given part of his powers, small powers to him. Parliament does not even have the power to divest the AG of that power. So what they set out to do with that office, right from the beginning, there was a challenge. I want to believe that even then, I had considered the constitutionality of that office.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
And at that point, I was thinking of taking a legal action. But I also felt that, hey, if you do that, people will think you are afraid. You understand?
Okay. So you thought initially about challenging the constitutionality of the field. Okay.
Yes. At different conversation levels.
Oh.
Yes. at different conversation levels. But I also felt that, because of how Nanado had put this whole thing, if you fight it now, people would think, oh, you are corrupt. That's why you are afraid.
I love Radio Gold.
So I took a political decision then.
Oh.
I took a political decision then not to touch it, not to go after the constitutionality of the office. Let it rule naturally. And today we are where we are. If Akufo-Addo gets today, he will scrap the office.
So how
you say we have 40 Gary.
But how do you think this whole constitutional issue that has been raised by the speaker can be addressed? Do we just allow the office to keep running?
It cannot be addressed. The Okwe Parliament that created the office knew that they were doing a constitutionally farcical office.
They knew.
Oh, they knew. They were just looking for an office that they can use at that time against former NDC appointees. And then they realized that it won't work.
I see.
Look, I can tell you that office, Akufo-Addo did that office having Machinamidu in mind. And that's why you see that the lawmakers said the OSP should have a constitutional, a statutory term limit of 7 years continuous. And so that Martin would have lasted throughout his tenure, assuming that he was going to remain do that. So because obviously you remember the 2012 issues the then NDC administration started having with Martin Amidu.
Yes.
I mean, you know that one of the biggest critiques of the Mahama Mills administration post 2012 was Mr. Martin Amidu.
Yes.
In fact, it was through Martin Amidu's advocacy and court processes that my Lord Justice Toche raised the issue of create, loot, and share.
Yeah, in a Oyemo case, yeah.
And that statement became the rallying corruption conversation by the then NPP against the Mahama administration. And so, obviously, he felt that, this man had harbored some kind of bitterness towards the NDC. So let me harvest it. A very mischievous thing to do. Extremely unethical. So, for instance, me, Senna, you and I were here. I know that Senna has a problem with Edudzi, right? Then I deliberately make you, Senna, a judge. And a case against Edudzi, I go and put it before you, Senna. Extremely unethical. But Akufo-Addo has no respect for ethics. For him, his politics is the end justifies the means. It's terrible. And you see, look, I mean, nature has basically worked this. I mean, who described Akufo-Addo as the mother serpent of corruption? Who did?
It was Martin Amidu himself.
Was it not the man he eulogized so greatly?
Yes.
Such is life. When you set out for revenge, kindly dig 2 graves.
I see. Well, before we end this, I've seen a very thorough write-up by the National Democratic Congress taking a position on the lithium matter. Exactly where does the NDC stand when it comes to the agreement between Bahari DV Ghana Limited and government to mine lithium in Oya? Where's the NDC?
I mean, it's quite a simple thing. Not long ago, in 2019, Akufo-Addo amended the Minerals and Mining Act. He amended the law to allow for stiffer punishment for galamsey. Correct?
Yes.
Now, we are saying that lithium is quite unique. And it's a contemporary, as it were, mineral. what we popularly call the green minerals. Now, the idea is that we needed a certain national conversation. Okay. We needed a national conversation on this lithium.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we didn't, resulting in the signing in October or so of this agreement that today has been widely criticized by the IEA, Christian Council, the Chief Imam's Office, a member of Akufo-Addo's own Council of State, in the person of the lawyer Sam Okujeto, among other prominent people like the former Chief Justice appointed by President Akufo-Addo, the Ladyship Sophia Akufu. I mean, it cannot be the case that all these people are wrong and Akufo-Addo and his ministers are right. You get my point?
Yes.
So clearly, there are issues to contend with.
Mm-hmm.
There are issues whereupon people believe that, look, if we want to do justice in terms of benefits, we should own this mineral. Right? We should own it. Look, minerals invoke a lot of nationalism. In some countries, the management of minerals have resulted in armed conflicts. Look, in Nigeria, when they started oil, the drilling of oil among other things, you remember the famous case of the Ogoni people, the famous case of Ken Saro-Wiwa, among other things. So, oil, I mean, even natural minerals, minerals generally, natural resources, usually come with an accompanying nationalism, sentimental issues. And so, when it comes to exploitation, you need to be very careful to strike a balance. Look, Obuasi and Johannesburg, we've been mining gold in Obuasi for over 150 years.
Yeah.
Can you compare Obuasi to Johannesburg?
Not even close.
What lessons have we learned? What lessons have we learned? So now, the words were wise.
Thank you. Thank you very much for making time to speak to us.
Have a blessed day.
Godwin Edudzi Tamakloe is Director Legal of the National Democratic Congress. Join us this morning to have a discussion on a couple of things. Most importantly, we started the discussion on this note, and this is a Speaker of Parliament talking in Parliament. Somebody raised the issue of the special prosecutor, and this was what he had to say.
For the law you passed on the establishment of the office of the special prosecutor, I did tell you that it was an act in futility. You were not going to achieve anything from that, but you went ahead to pass it. I disagreed with you, but I was alone. But I'm very clear in my mind that that authority is embedded in the powers of the Attorney General, constitutionally. Who delegated to who? No, but that is not what you put in the act. What you just need to do is to fund the office of the Attorney General well and remove the Minister of Justice. You separate the two. Minister of Justice is a political appointee. The Attorney General is a technical person. And he only is ranked in conditions of service to that of a Minister of State. It doesn't mean they have to be incorporated too. Oh, I'm talking about the Constitution. No. I have my Constitution with me here. We are not Supreme Court. So we don't have that power. Yes, it's there, 881. I have no problem. I have no problem with Attorney General being a minister. I'm only saying you separate that from the Minister of Justice. Yes. Honorable members, so to have put the question on the